Funding for Paige Layle is provided by BetterHelp, the sponsor of today's video.
BetterHelp is a way for you to get therapy online from the comfort of your own home, where you have access to over 20,000 different therapists. To get started, you fill out a questionnaire. This will help assess your needs and better match you with a therapist.
Okay, I don't know if that was proper English or not, but she's cute, okay? She's trying.
You will be matched with a therapist as little as 48 hours. Then you can schedule secure video and phone call sessions with your therapist. Plus, you can exchange unlimited chat messages with them. Everything you share is completely confidential. If your therapist and you are just not gelling, you can request a new therapist at any time, no charge. Join the millions of people who have taken charge of their mental health today by joining BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Layle, and get 10% off your first month. Thank you so much to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get on to the rest of the video.
Okay, let's talk. I think OCD is one of the most misunderstood psychiatric disorders out there. I think it's true that not too many people are well adversed in the world of OCD. Not like people are taught much about mental health in general, but OCD is a disorder that is so stigmatized and honestly not often portrayed anywhere in media, and definitely not often portrayed accurately. I think OCD is a quite fascinating disorder. I myself have this disorder. Actually, out of all my disorders, I think that OCD is my least fave of them all. Nevertheless, it is still quite fascinating how it works. It's amazing how much the mind is capable of. I think it's so misrepresented, therefore kind of a hard one to grasp, especially because it's one of those disorders that people so often use interchangeably with an adjective. Like people say, I'm so OCD, I love to clean. My OCD is being silly goofy balls today, cleaning up, giving the wrong impression of what OCD actually is, which I don't think is that cool, because OCD is not something that's fun or enjoyable to have and to be taken lightly, not taken seriously. OCD is very distressing to the human being that has it. We're gonna look at some comparisons of what is OCD and then what is not OCD. To define OCD specifically, I do have a video up here. If you have not watched it, I suggest you go do that now and then come back here. The tagged video is all about what is OCD in terms of diagnostic criteria, like how does one get diagnosed for OCD. Here's gonna get a little more personal, a little more specific. Let's go down the list and compare. Allow me to show you a glimpse of what OCD is like in the real life. Number one, it is not OCD to be particular about things, to have preferences and expectations and want to live up to those expectations. Liking and disliking certain things is just what makes us human. Everyone has preferences and those preferences vary. Real OCD can look like having rules surrounding preferences. Someone with OCD may have a hard time having their own preferences, or at least having them freely. Sometimes rules have to be put in place, or preferences have to be controlled in some way. Someone with OCD may be particular about certain things, and they may be too just having preferences as well, but it is an OCD thing to restrict your access to things that you enjoy due to arbitrary rules that no one put in place. Number two, it is not OCD to like symmetry. Symmetry is actually scientifically one of the ways that we as human beings identify beauty in people, but also in nature. Leaves, symmetrical. Animal faces, symmetrical. Trees, symmetrical. A tomato is symmetrical. A banana is sometimes. Liking symmetry is one thing, but needing symmetry is another. Symmetry is often a very big aspect in OCD, especially when it comes to a person's own body. And because OCD is distressing, this urge for symmetry can seem to have no means to an end. As a kid, I was walking through the park one day when boom, right into my right arm slammed into one of those stupid metal bars. It hurt real freaking bad. One of those ones that you know is going to bruise later. But as I walked away, my whole body felt lopsided. My right side felt heavy and on fire, and my left side felt wrong and tingly, and anxiety started building. And the next thing I knew, I slammed my left arm into the same pole. And I was a little bit of a baby the first time, and it didn't hurt the same amount as my right one, so I did it even harder. That made my left arm hurt more than my right arm, which made me hit my right arm harder to try to even out the pain. This continued for some time. I used to touch everything with both of my hands. Nothing would just be with one hand. Anything I would do with one hand, I would have to do to the other hand. Ooh, and if I start thinking about it, I'm going to keep doing it. Number three, it is not OCD to like a clean and tidy space. There are a lot of reasons as to why people like their spaces to be clean and tidy. I don't think there are many human beings in this world actually that can say that they honestly enjoy having a messy space. Wanting to have things clean, tidy, organized in and of itself is not specifically an OCD trait. In fact, most people with OCD are pretty messy. Sometimes people with OCD may have an intense fear of food contamination, keeping things clean in that way, perhaps severely germophobic, may not even be part of their OCD. It's not part of mine, I will tell you that. I enjoy a clean and tidy space. I just cannot do it because of who I am. And it's also something that I don't need. It's not something that I prioritize. It's not something I require in order to function. If I do not have a clean space, does it suck? Yeah, because optimally you would like everything to be cleaned up. If not, that's a thing you're gonna have to do later, and that stresses me out. If someone with OCD did have this tendency where they wanted things to be clean and tidy all of the time, it is likely not enjoyable. OCD isn't fun. So although it may be stress relieving, it's only stress relieving because the compulsion made it stressful. And by feeding the compulsion, you're just putting the beast back to sleep. Until next time. Number 4, just like having things clean and tidy and organized is not necessarily an OCD trait, neither is cleaning. Excessively wash their hands, are always wearing gloves. I think of Howie Mandel. Think of the guy from Cat in the Hat that is pumping the hand sanitizer. And OCD isn't just cleaning, and even if the part of someone's OCD is cleaning, or being clean, or keeping something clean, it's not out of enjoyment. It's not a stress-free thing to do because they enjoy doing it. It's a step. It's completing a step of the ritual that is whatever it is. It's not cleaning for the sake of cleaning. It's part of a checklist of steps that need to be completed in this ritual. It doesn't feel like I'm cleaning. It feels like I'm completing a task that is important for my OCD. Number 5. I couldn't think of a comparison here, so this is just something that I wanted to add for the real OCD section. Intrusive and unwanted thoughts are large components of OCD. And my thoughts sometimes try to tell me some scary stuff. My thoughts will try to convince me that I'm doing something that I really don't want to do, or that I feel something that I really don't actually feel, nor do I want to feel. Often intrusive thoughts will specifically attack the very things that are most important to you. It's like you have someone in your brain trying to give you the worst ideas imaginable, and you think it's you. This is who I call Brenda. This is my Brenda. Brenda is the OCD part of my brain that when I'm driving goes, crash off the side of the road, drive off a cliff, kill your whole family. Brenda, that was a crazy thing that you just said, babe. You're crazy. Number 6, it is not OCD to be forgetful. Forgetting if you've done something, for example, shutting off your hair straightener in the morning, and before you run out the door, you run quick to check your hair straightener. You see that you shut it off. You're good to go. Especially if you're known to be a forgetful person, this is not OCD. It might be ADHD. It's definitely okay to doubt yourself, double check things. It is OCD if you go back and check the hair straightener 57 times. OCD wants you to release your anxiety by following its patterns, by going with compulsion, like turning the light on and off 8 times before you leave a room, unlocking and relocking the door. There's a whole whack. Number 7. This is one that I've touched on throughout this whole thing, and that is, it is not OCD if you want to do whatever it is that you're doing. If you feel like you have your own free will, if you feel like you have a choice, then it's probably not OCD. Let's say someone really has the urge to do all of the dishes in the sink. Now it's something to ask, do they have that urge because they want clean dishes, or are they afraid that by not doing the dishes, bacteria and mold is going to build up overnight and kill everyone in the apartment? Yeah, so that was a big one. An example of this for me is thinking of a compulsion, something that my OCD wants me to do. What would happen and what would I feel like if I didn't or couldn't do it? Now for me, especially years ago before therapy, I would say that this would be debilitating. The stress would be existential, through the roof. My OCD also connected very unreasonably with random thoughts, which meant that a lot of actions had random, imaginative consequences, like if I didn't do this, then everyone here was gonna die, whatever, making me responsible for humongous things that I definitely was not responsible for. If I step on a crack, why would that break my mother's back? Why, how, in what way does that correlate? It's not OCD if you could live without doing the compulsion or the task. Someone without OCD may have a problem leaving dirty dishes in the sink overnight, but if there were dirty dishes in the sink overnight, they may feel a little uncomfy, a little bit of stress, but nothing debilitating. It's more so annoying and doesn't actually have huge life consequences. OCD, sometimes it feels like you are not in control of your own body. You're not in control of your own mind. There are a lot of compulsions compulsions and intrusive thoughts that I don't act on, a majority of them. Of course, intrusive thoughts can just get gnarly and they just are always there, and it's strange. You know that it's not you saying those things inside your head, but you still question it and think. It's a whole side of your brain that you don't know and that is actively against you. Number 8, instead of starting with the not OCD side, I'll start with the OCD side, which is doing a compulsion even if it causes physical harm. For example, the symmetry incident I was talking about earlier with me on the playground. Most people without OCD would stop something if it hurt. I've had a compulsion to put my hand in a fire, and I did. The intrusive thought won that day. People with just regular chill brains don't care to put themselves in harm's way, especially when they don't want to. I've had a lot of tics or a lot of patterns, a lot of compulsive behaviors that hurt, but I cannot stop. I had this weird thing with my tongue. I had a tic where I would squeeze my eyelids very tightly together. That was not enjoyable. I had one where I kept moving my neck like a frog.
Okay, the organ that filters urine. Not liver, but 2 of them, donate 1 of them.
That one ended up hurting my tongue as well. Right now it's cracking my fingers. There are some fingers like on my right hand, they just never crack and it always hurts. Oh, I think my face is going red because I'm embarrassed. That's not really. One little side area of OCD is a little something they call trichotillomania, which is picking out your hair on your body. This is something that your boy has. If I do not have all parts of my body shaved, I'll rip them out. I'll rip them out, including my legs, my arms. I tried my freaking hardest with my eyelashes and my eyebrows. Anywhere else? Nope. Number 9. It may not be OCD if it makes sense, if it's reasonable. Someone who likes to have the bed made and have the cupboard doors closed. Even if someone's really super anal about that, it makes sense. That is a completely fair request to make. And if someone says they like to keep the fridge organized a certain way because it makes it easier for them, that makes sense. That's reasonable. OCD does not always make sense. The consequences in OCD may not match the action. If I turn around 8 times to the left and then 8 times to the right, that will make sure that I don't crash the plane tomorrow. Before we go on the roller coaster, we must do our little roller coaster handshake. Alrighty, awesome. Now we will not die. That's good. Oh no, thank you. I only have seafood on days that start with a T.
Why? Why is that?
Oh, it's just the only days that I wear red because I can only eat seafood when I wear red. So, and number 10, it may not be OCD if the problem is actually under that person's control. There are actual solutions to actual problems that make sense. If someone doesn't like having their pencils unorganized, they can organize them and then they will be stress-free. They do get to actually physically control that situation.
Sorry, actually, I should explain that. As someone that has OCD and did like to organize their pencils and markers, I think that I misspoke. Here, wait, I'll film myself.
I look like my Auntie Deb. Yeah, that can totally be OCD. I think that what I was meaning to get across though is maybe you just like having your pencils organized. Maybe it's easier to get them in a certain way. And if that's like one thing, like if you're an art student or you just like have a lot of pencils and need to access them quickly or whatever, that's different because it falls under if it has a purpose. Any pencil case or marker case or anything I ever had, I would only take out one at a time and then put it back exactly where it came from when I first got it out of the original packaging. And that's the thing there. Why? That's a preference, but it's a fucking weird one. And if they weren't there, I would get upset, very upset, angry, upset, stressed out, fuck off. That was just one of the rules that I put on stuff. I'm not good with things not being where they're supposed to be because I need to be under control of everything at all times. With OCD, you get to have a little bit of control in an environment where you seriously don't have much control at all. So I had a lot of rituals and a lot of compulsive behaviors. It made me feel like I was in some kind of control, like being very superstitious. I talked about the mother's back thing. There probably are no superstitions that I don't follow unless they're really dumb. I may not be superstitious, but I'm a little stitious. Various rituals so I wouldn't die, certain things I had to wear, a lot of rules and guidelines that just existed for no reason, that only existed because my brain told me they needed to and I couldn't escape them. Therapy was super helpful. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but OCD therapy was an incredibly important source to save you all a bunch of dollars from doing it if you want. What if you didn't do your compulsion? let's do that and see what happens. You're absolutely terrified because not doing your compulsion feels like the world is going to end, and you panic and you cry and it's awful. And the first few times my therapist had to hold me as I was shaking, but I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it in a safe place because OCD is one of the worst dudes in my life. I meant to say too when I was filming this that if you happen to be one of the people that sounds like the not OCD that I described, I want you to know that just because it may not necessarily be OCD doesn't mean that I don't believe it's not hard for you. Even if it may not be OCD, it's not a typical thing, especially if by not cleaning something, it's incredibly distressing to you and makes you very upset, or if the act of cleaning makes you feel really good, like it's almost therapeutic or satisfying and you enjoy doing it, you want to do it. An extensive or a radical need to clean, need to actively be cleaning or keep everything clean or have a clean space can be a result of trauma. If a child had very strict parents who demanded cleanliness, who had like very strict order of how that child's bedroom should look like, had a lot of chores growing up, maybe they'd be really mad at the child if they made a mess. They'd be punished for making messes or for being messy, being disorganized. They were terrified of breaking something because parents were not cool with them breaking things. An adult who experienced this as a child may feel the subconscious need to continue that childhood cycle and having that trauma response. A lot of adults are still controlled by their childhood selves. If a child had parents who were hoarders or just really, really messy, or maybe they had a lot of kids, a lot of chaos in the house, a messy space, perhaps a dysfunctional family dynamic where if the house was going to be clean, it was up to the child to clean it. The only space that they could control was their bedroom. That person may be afraid of becoming like their parents, or may just be afraid of seeing that environment at all. If this is you, if you're struggling with this, I'm sorry. If you're like, I'm not struggling, I'm totally fine with cleaning, that's great. Then this isn't you. Beauty. Something about like every disorder, I'm pretty sure, is that they say that it needs to be distressing. It needs to cause negative impact in your life, noticeably. And if you're just cleaning stuff and you love it, then just, have fun. That is all for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching and staying to the end. Since you're here at the end, you should subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you like me or if you like content like this. Thanks once again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys. I love you so much, and I will talk to you later. Bye. This is the end of the video song. This video's to tell you the video's done. If you're hearing this, it's because the video's done. Go watch another one. Boop, boop. Have a good day. Love you so much. Bye.